Hey everyone, welcome back to Shapr3D with J-Lake3D. So today we're going to be finishing up the part 4 of this model. This is a long one. It took forever to make, but anyways, what we're going to do is finish up the grill like we started last time. So we just mirror it over, and then we're going to delete the center line because we don't need it right now. And usually for patterns you need to have the dimensions, but for this case we want to offset it first because we want it slightly smaller to give it like a frame effect. All right, and then in this case, like I said, we don't need the measurement, but in most cases you do, just because this one is kind of easy because I made it a certain size that was easy to see because we based it off of the grid. So in this case we just move it over and we kind of can guesstimate and get it right there on the spot. So 14.6 millimeters. All right, once we have that, we need to figure out how many of them we want so that we can have an equal number. So like not an odd number most likely, but an even number. Then we go ahead and get those and push them in. And we're not gonna go too far inside just because if it was a real car design, that we would obviously hollow out the whole shell of the car. But in this case, 0.5 millimeters should do pretty good. It would be easy to manufacture as a toy. Now for this piece, we're gonna draw another frame again. So it's another rectangle. And basically, we're gonna follow suit of the way that we did the grill. We're gonna go ahead and offset the center after we extrude this piece. And now to give it that frame effect, we're gonna go ahead and fillet the edges. Oh, make sure it's a new body, by the way. We're gonna fillet the edges, and we're gonna do an offset just like we did on the grill to make it look more realistic, you know. And then once we have that offset, we can also draw the center line now at this point, because we're gonna separate this. You know how like a light bar has usually 2 rows of LEDs. That's what we want to do. So and make sure you zoom in a little bit sometimes just to get it in the center, because sometimes it would like fall down to the next line. And once we have that sketched out, we can kind of sketch one of the LEDs, which in this case we're just going to use a simple circle. We're going to make it just like the headlight. We're going to make the circle, then revolve it around the center line that we're going to draw. Okay, so it's not a big deal. It's not super ultra realistic. I know LEDs is actually usually a square, but for this specific tutorial, I think just to give it that visual effect, this will be fine. So let's go ahead and revolve that circle around the center line. And what we also want to do is hide it, because what we want to basically push that frame in, and we can't really do that until we hide the circle. So now that we have it hidden, we select all the pieces. And again, the reason we're doing this now rather than later is because then we'd have to do more work if we waited longer. So in this case, we do this now. Then we unhide the circle that we just created, and now we're going to use the pattern tool to kind of duplicate it across one row. And then for the second row, all we need to do is basically copy it down. But let's make it the same color as the headlight so that it looks a little bit like the light is on. And then the frame in the background to kind of give it an added effect, because you know, like a deflector or reflector, whatever, they have like just that color to help with the reflections. So make sure you get your size correct. As you scoot it, you can either click on the line to see the length of it minus the part, or you can simply move it over, and that usually works for most cases, but not in every case, kind of like we did on the grill. And in some cases it's easier to guess. In some cases you have a weird number with a lot of decimal points, but in this case we're just going to kind of round up to see how we can get them exactly on point in that specific distance without using a calculator. So now that we have how much we need, we can go ahead and just copy it downwards. We don't have to use the pattern tool for this. We can simply use the move tool and press copy. So it's a piece of cake here. And for a final touch, we can union these pieces together. Or if you don't want to, you don't have to. Depends on your process. But the Boolean operation failed. Okay, so it's because the edges are right on there. So what we can do is either shrink these just ever so slightly to union them, or we can do them piece by piece. But for this, I'm just going to skip it for now. For this part, what we're going to do is project the tool. And if you see on the side there, we have those doors in place. I decided to skip that out of the tutorial. It's a simple projection and a sketch. I'm not going to kind of carve it out. So we're just going to focus on the wheel right now. And if you have any questions on how to do those doors, you can ask in the comments below. I will make a video if you need it, but I consider it unnecessary because this video would be too long as it is. So with the wheel, we projected that wheel, then we offset the shape to give it that extra boost in size to go over the wheel, right? And then we simply extrude that sketch, because it's not a body line. We extrude it as a sketch instead of a body line, and we make it as a new body. And now we have our basic fender flare. And if you actually want to watch a full tutorial on the fender flares, I made a separate video with a realistic fender flare, like for an actual truck. So if you want to watch that, it's going to be up soon. But for this one, I want to make it look like a toy. So we're going to make it slightly fancier in a way, and we're going to extend it over the frame, just to make it fit as far back as possible. And for this Jeep, I'm not going to put a tire there because that'll ruin the way that this design is working. So we're going to leave it as like a flat back. But let's go ahead and smooth those edges out. And you can do whatever you want, obviously, in this case. But I'm just going to make it the way I think it looks good for this specific project. Go ahead and fillet some of the edges, make it look good, because this is the final touches of the car already. And I mean, I like it. We can just mirror that over to the other side. And for the front, we simply copy it over and move it and adjust it on the wheel. And you can always draw a sketch or use the measure tool to get it exactly, but in most cases you can just simply move it over and visualize where it needs to be in the center. So, and for the front, we need to adjust it just slightly so that it doesn't interfere with the door. Let's say if you are manufacturing this toy, you don't want the parts to crash into each other. For example, if this door opened on your toy, you would crash into that fender flare and you wouldn't be able to open it. So you have to make sure that you kind of cut it down slightly so that you can make sure the parts fit. And what we can end up doing here is simply moving it up over there so that it's there on the latch. All right, now we can fillet it and make it look better. And then for this part, we can't simply replace the face because it'll make it slanted to match the hood shape, basically. So what we need to do, as you can see here, what we need to do is extrude it as a new body and then subtract it from the actual car or from the hood, whatever you want to say. But so basically just drag it all in there, and now we can replace the face of this little piece, and we can kind of subtract it as necessary and then union the pieces after that. And now we have our whole thing, and then we can replace the face there if necessary, just to make sure everything matches. But in this case, it's probably fine. So we can just go ahead and union these two together, and now we have our front fender flare. And same thing with the rear, we can simply mirror it over by using the center line. That's why it's good to work in the center. It makes things a lot easier and just smoother workflow overall. So let's go ahead and add a couple more details. What we can do, if you've ever been off-roading, you know that they have those air vents so that the car doesn't flood if you end up going into some mud. So that's what we're going to draw here. We simply go on the side of the vehicle, we make a sketch, we extrude it. And the thing is, I like to do it on the grid rather than on the part, because sometimes you make it on the part and it's just like a micro millimeter off and it ruins your whole design later on in the process. So sometimes I like to use just the grid to do that, just an FYI. So we extrude it here, and I'm going to match the face of the fender flare later, but for now, let's go ahead and just add a couple parts to it. So let's extend it up by extruding it. And I know the sweep tool here is an odd way to do it. You could have just simply extruded it, but it goes to show you that Shapr tools are pretty interchangeable in some instances. So, and then we just replace the face there, although we could have just simply clicked the line to extrude it further using the sweep. Let's go ahead and replace the face to match that front. Imagine it's going into the hood to the air filter, and we're gonna go ahead and smooth that edge so that when it's bouncing, when it's driving, it's not gonna crack in that specific weak point. Go ahead and fillet those edges just to make it look like a pipe of sorts, and then that also helps with airflow, right? And what we could have done here is just make it flat, but I would like to make it kind of aim forward. And what we need to do is draw that circle and then just subtract the things we don't need, because we're going to use the sweep tool again on that surface so that we can get that shape that we want, that 90-degree kind of spout. All right. So simply, again, sweep tool, use the selected face that you want, then click next, not the line, click next, then the line. And now we have our part. And I would have preferred this probably to be a bit more rectangular, but this works pretty well with this design, just for this specific case. And then just extrude that little piece as a new body. And we technically didn't need a new body, but we could. It also depends on if you're going to loft it or just mirror it. Kind of depends on the design. So let your design kind of show you what needs to be done. Like once you learn the tools, you know how to fix the problem, whatever problem you have at hand. So here we can simply kind of loft it across or extrude it and then replace face. So it depends on your needs again. So in this case, what I want to do though is loft it just to give it that kind of corner piece. And then here we're just going to fillet it, because lofting it would take up too much time. You would have to split the body, etc. Or you can also extrude it and subtract from the face, but here we're just going to go ahead and fillet it, because I just don't feel like I want to join that edge right there of the hood. That's a bit of an odd angle there. So we're just going to go ahead and fillet it here, and we're going to hope that that's enough airflow for our Jeep. All right, let's continue on, and now we can union our bodies so that we can shell it out, because I do want it to look like an actual thing. And you could have like added a filter, let's say, for example. And for shelling, you basically choose a surface that you want to open as you shell. So in this case, we wanted just that piece right there. And then we can fill it inside to make the airflow smoother. And there is ways to work on it. Like if you do section do, you can work inside the model. But let's go ahead and match the color. And I think this is looking really good now. We're basically done, but let's go ahead and finish up that grill. Like I said in the beginning, we're going to come back to it because that looked a little bit unfinished. And you kind of got to find what looks good to your eyes, because everybody sees a little bit differently based on your life experience. So I think for me this looks pretty good, but we need to smooth out those little edges there. If you kind of looked at it, it was a bit sharp, and it makes it give it like an old car look. So if we smooth out these little edges here, if we fillet them, it gives it a more modern appearance. Also, those edges right there are a bit too sharp, so let's round those off as well. And I think this will be pretty much all for now. We could have done a lot more, obviously, in this car, but I think just to show you what can be done in the process of how it's done, I think this was a good setup for you, to succeed on your project. So I think we're gonna stop here so you can work on your own projects. Actually, I forgot, like, one of the main things on any off-road vehicle. It's actually a front bumper. So let's make a sturdy front bumper. I won't be making the winch this time, because that's a separate topic, because you need to make sure that twirl, roll, whatever is on there. So that's like an hour design project all on its own. So let's go ahead and start with a simple rectangle to make it look off-roady, and that's too thick. Let's make it. Why don't we go ahead and kind of extrude inside instead? So let's make a thick bumper to give it like a super beefy front end, but let's round it off to give it a certain aesthetic, to make it rugged and soft at the same time. So let's go ahead and just fill at those edges there slightly so that it's rounded. That way, if you hit something, you can roll off instead of getting stuck on it, right? Let's offset it. So just like the frame, offset tool is used very often, as you can see. And we can draw a little fancy design inside. So let's say room for fog lights would be a good idea, right? So you can do custom stuff like that. And we're gonna stray away from the circular design of the headlights and LEDs supposedly that we've made. So I'm not gonna draw the fog lights in this case, but I just will have those insets for them. And then this is like a lower grill, which usually holds, the winch. But in this case, I'm just gonna kind of push them inside, and I'm gonna push the design even further inside just to give it more of a design appeal. And obviously you can do your own style, and typically these bumpers are made from tubes, so this bumper is not what is typically done, but this is like a custom piece for this toy. And I do want to change the colors just to make it match the rest of the car. Let's go ahead and do that, because this is like a big part of the fun, right? When you see your project in colors in visualization mode, that kind of is like the finishing touch, that you want. And we can make these look like headlights a little bit, but it's not really necessary, because this is however you want. This is your project that you can do. But let's go ahead and just change the color of this as well, because I want to make it perfection, because this is probably the final piece. I don't think we're going to add any more details after this, because honestly there's not much else to do anyways, considering this is just a toy. Although we could have done the rear bumper as well, and that's a fun project, but I'm actually going to make a tutorial on how to do a bumper for a car later, so let's save that for then. Now in this case, let's go ahead and hide all the sketches, and then we can go into visualization mode and just to kind of enjoy our product that we've made. This was a long one. I've probably never done a longer tutorial, so if you followed all the way here, great job. This wasn't super easy, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, don't forget to comment down below. Let me know what you thought about it, if I should make more longer style videos. If I talk too much, let me know, because I am here learning with you as well. So don't forget to teach me what's on your mind as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, have fun with it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Here at Shapr3D, our goal is to inspire and empower you to create your own amazing projects. Please support our work so that we can keep doing it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to see more.